Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 8th of September 2021, and our topic of the day is the latest situation emanating from Afghanistan, whether it be the interim setup that has been announced by the Afghan Taliban, or whether it is a virtual meeting of the different foreign ministers that was addressed by our foreign minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. Afghan is a priority as far as this region is concerned. More in the following report.
The Taliban has announced a caretaker government drawn exclusively from its inner echelons, with Afghan war veterans getting top posts in the new setup. Taliban on Tuesday announced the contours of new government in Afghanistan just a week after a hushed withdrawal of US-led foreign forces from the country. Speaking at a press conference in capital Kabul, Chief Taliban spokesperson Zabiullah Mujahid divulged a 33-member cabinet, which included Mullah Muhammad Hassan Akhund as the new prime minister, while the group's top negotiator with the US Mullah Ghani Baradar to be his deputy. According to the Taliban spokesperson, both Mullah Akhund and Mullah Baradar were nominated to the two top posts by Taliban chief Hibatullah Akhundzada. Chaotic withdrawal of US forces and the subsequent events that unfolded stunned the world owing to the speed with which the Taliban established their writ, particularly in most of the country, even upon Panjshir, where Ahmad Shah Massoud was well entrenched. Thus, Afghanistan's neighbors must take a long-term perspective in formulating policies and dealing with Afghanistan. Taking the lead in ushering peace and stability in Afghanistan, Pakistan is hosting a foreign ministers' virtual meeting on Afghanistan, and the meeting will also be attended by foreign ministers of China, Iran, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. Meeting provided an opportunity to neighbors of Afghanistan to work together for a peaceful and stable Afghanistan and to address common challenges and ensure regional stability and prosperity. U.S. State Department has urged Pakistan to assume the mantle of bringing an inclusive government in Kabul, as Republican Senator Lindsey Graham raised alarm that the U.S. would re-invade Afghanistan if situation worsens. A peaceful, stable, united, sovereign, and prosperous Afghanistan will contribute towards transit trade, people-to-people exchanges, and security in the region.
To discuss more about this latest situation emanating from Afghanistan, we've been joined by Basit Raza. Abbasi Sahab, he's a senior analyst. Abbasi Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. Abbasi Sahab, let's begin with the interim government that has come in Afghanistan, whether it be Muhammad Hassan Akhund Sahab or Abdul Ghani Baradar or Amir Khan Muttaqi, Mullah Yaqub, Sirajuddin Haqqani. These are key names as far as the Afghan Taliban and of course the different other factions are concerned. How do you see this interim government, and why do you feel the West is looking at this interim government with such a skeptical eye?
Actually, it's very obvious that Afghan have made a lot of commitments as per the desires of Western nations. These are the same nations who were there for 20 years in Afghanistan, and they had the full control. They were free to do whatever they want to do. Now, after their epic struggle, the Taliban have taken over the government. And now it's their time to sort of set up the rules and the form and type of government to rule Afghanistan. So, there are many people, even like British Chief of Defence Staff, who said that Taliban must be given space. So the world, although the world is not ready to give them space, all sorts of sanctions are being applied. But Taliban have actually now, it seems that they have decided, they have resolved that we'll go our way as far as government is concerned, because the whole world is expecting them to do miracles. They want Taliban should do this, do that, do that. What all they could not do in the last 20 years, they want Taliban to do it overnight. Well, if you desire them to do all that, let them have a government of their choice. And another thing, they have left a sort of room for negotiation. This is an interim government. So this means that it has ample scope for expansion. And those people whom the West want to see, and let's say all the other nations want to see, perhaps would be added at the later stage. But this is the time that they want to secure the government machinery, and they want to sort of introduce their system of government, which is to run this country after 4 decades of consistent wars. Now is a time for peace, and now they want to put up a setup which should actually take Afghanistan further towards a path of progress.
But why have these impediments as far as this peace process that you've talked about is concerned? Why doesn't the West let the current government or this interim government in Afghanistan work and see where it goes? I mean, don't you feel that the West should give some time to the Afghan Taliban's government?
That's right. If you see technically, the day one of Afghan government is today. I mean, whatever was happening, I mean, 31st August, the Americans went out. But Taliban didn't take over the government. It was actually, they were forced when their installed government of Ashraf Ghani, he just left unceremoniously without anything. So Taliban were actually forced to enter Kabul and sort of take over the security arrangements and things like that. And now they have finally decided who should run that government. So I think the world should be patient and they should give a chance to Taliban and see how they run the show. And there are a lot of propaganda, and I think we have to understand that. Today I was listening to the world news from I don't want to name the media, but there was a headline news that there's a demonstration by against Taliban by women, and there were not more than 20 women in that demonstration. Now that was not a thing to be broadcast as a top headline from a leading news media.
Agreed.
So everything should given its due weightage, and we should not enhance the things, magnify the things beyond proportions, and we should see realistically, and we have to give Taliban space and see how they behave. These faces do not matter actually. It's their West phobia. Now, if America has put head money on Sirajuddin Haqqani and he is the foreign minister, so be it. I mean, America is not the sort of the world court that whatever they decide is the law and the order of the day. So who has given them that authority? So I think we should have that balance and we should see things in the right perspective.
Let's talk about some of the comments that have emanated from the international arena, beginning with the US, because you were talking about this. Lindsey Graham, the Republican senator, has said, and I quote, that the US will once again in the foreseeable future should put troops back into Afghanistan. And of course, then when the media person asked him, should they do, he said, yes, we'll have to, because the threat will be so large, it will be a cauldron for radical Islamic behavior. There is a certain mindset as far as that is concerned, the US is concerned. Then let's come to China, and it says it will maintain communication with the new Afghan government. It has, since day one, maintained communication with the new Afghan government. And the Afghans have also said, the Afghan Taliban have also said that they want a role as far as the China-Pakistan economic corridor is concerned. And then let's come to Qatar, that says that Taliban have shown pragmatism and they should be judged by their actions. Different countries, different opinions. Will they converge at some point?
I'm very sure they will. I think, let me tell you that the country most on trial in these days is United States of America. Because their own allies, there are voices from England and Germany and France that it's the doing of United States. And there's a lot of sort of British Prime Minister has to face a lot of firing from their own MPs that why did not Britain act more prudently? Why did they just kept on following whatever America was trying to do? So there are voices of dissension inside the America. Already there's a fissure between the Republican and Democratic. And let me tell you, Mr. Trump actually left a booby-trap presidency for
Was
Mr.
it deliberate?
I think so. Perhaps in his own way he could resolve the matters. Because if you see the peace agreement, there are so many loopholes. And if you see it sort of minutely, Taliban did not concede anything. And they got everything. I mean, they wanted Americans to go out, they went out unceremoniously. And I mean, the government with which the West wanted Taliban to deal, that government evaporated overnight. And now the whole ground is left to Taliban. They have no choice but to run this government and run it according to their own vision and their own wisdom. And we have to be patient and see the results.
All right. Let's talk about Pakistan's perspective. You know that Pakistan is addressing a virtual meeting, our foreign minister addressed a virtual meeting of the neighbors of Afghanistan, foreign ministers of the neighbors of Afghanistan that included China, Iran, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. They discussed, of course, the developments in Afghanistan and also talked about the humanitarian crisis and the economic meltdown in the country. Now, I would like to address some of the points that he talked about as far as the coordinated approach in Afghanistan is concerned. He said security situation along the borders, prevention of Afghan soil being used by terrorists, possibility for fresh influx of refugees, containing drug trafficking, stemming any spread of extremist elements, challenges related to the COVID-19 pandemic and of course COVID-19 pandemic and impediments to regional connectivity. These were the points that he highlighted that required a coordinated approach of all the neighbors of Afghanistan. How important do you feel all of these points in this current context, in this current situation are? And do you feel that the interim government in Afghanistan, seeing that it has also said that nothing will be used, the Afghan land will not be used against any neighboring country, do you think they can stand by their word, or do you feel it is going to be a difficult task ahead for them?
Look, I don't want to sort of judge their intents. I mean, let's sort of trust their words and give them time and space to put those words into practice. But the world seems to be impatient. What the whole might of the Western powers could not achieve in 2 decades.
What the Taliban achieved in a couple of
How do you want them Taliban? Why do you every day take account? Why do you have open registers? This is not the way. Give them some time. Even when the American president walks into the office, he's just after 100 days. That how has he been practiced? Give them at least those 100 days which you give to the most elaborate and well-established democracy. These guys have come out of trenches and 40 years of consistent guerrilla warfare, and now they have this uphill task to form a government and run a nation, run a country, which has been totally sort of destroyed by the consistent bombardments and all sorts of experimentations at governance and governing. And I am very surprised that they want an inclusive government. So was the government of Ashraf Ghani inclusive? If that model was so successful, why did it evaporate overnight? I mean, what is an inclusive government? An inclusive government is a government which represents everybody, and it should not be so unstable that it cannot stand for one night. So I personally feel, and I also think that this caveat of interim government is perhaps a bargain, could be a bargaining chip also.
Of course.
That
I think the main essence of the thing is that we need to give them time.
Exactly.
To let them prove themselves how good or how effective they are as a government. Don't you feel that? Finally, last question, sir. The US State Department says that Pakistan's role is critical as far as this inclusive government in Afghanistan is concerned. How important do you feel Pakistan's role is going to be? We know it is, but what's your point of view in the coming days? I'm not talking of the 100 days as the US leaders say, but in the coming months, how important is going to be Pakistan's role as far as stability, economic or humanitarian and otherwise is concerned in Afghanistan?
Before answering your question, I think Pakistan should ask that you want us to do so many things and what you are ready to do for it. Because all the time we have been, this mantra of do more has gone on for too long. Ad nauseum it has been going on. True. And now I think we should ask back this question, that what you want to do. So as far as we are concerned, look, we just talked about this neighbors of Afghanistan conference. These are the people who have the greatest stakes in Afghanistan situation. The people sitting thousands of miles away and their proteges like India and others, they have their own axe to grind. Exactly. They otherwise have
their concerns aren't
tangible
genuine.
interest.
I mean, especially when it comes to
India. That's right. But all these neighbors, their connectivity and their progress and prosperity lies in a stable and peaceful Afghanistan. So these are the guys who have to be sincere, and their efforts. I mean, whether world asks them or not, Pakistan and Afghanistan are like conjoined twins. We are attached at our backs. So we have to survive together. We have to learn to survive together, and we have to support each other. And this is what Pakistan is doing. We already having 3.5 million refugees. And interestingly, But sir, the world has forgotten that Pakistan has 3.5 million.
Of course.
It's now since last few days that somebody just suddenly recollected.
I
yes,
think
the
foreign elements also
more.
seem to forget that we have lost 80,000 lives and
Exactly.
billions of dollars in the war against terror,
Exactly.
because as a result of what happened a couple of decades back in our neighboring country.
That's right. This is my point, that this double standard should stop now. And you should call a spade, and whatever is right, you should appreciate it.
Of course.
So now the world wants Pakistan to sort of take in more refugees. It's very difficult for Pakistan because letting people without documentation come in is hazardous. I mean, there could be, we have this TTP and those elements.
These elements
already
activated. And this is definitely an emanating threat. And let's see how the interim government works on removing these elements from its country and removing their influence inside of countries such as Pakistan. Thank you very much, Basit Abbasi Sahab, to have joined us, to have given us an overview of what is happening in Afghanistan as we speak. A new interim government, ladies and gentlemen, in Afghanistan. Let's see how they work along. But the general opinion should be to give them time, to give them the working space and see how they come along as far as different issues that are engulfed in this neighboring country of Afghanistan. And now let's come to our second segment, and that concerns the latest cases as far as COVID-19 is concerned. We know there is a Delta variant, a Delta Plus variant. There's also now a Mu variant that is also coming up in different countries of the world. More in the following report.
Pakistan has seen its daily coronavirus caseload mostly hover between the 3,000 to 4,000 range for close to a month now, as the country continues to grapple with the fourth wave of pandemic. Country reported a coronavirus positivity rate of less than 7% for the 7th consecutive day, according to National Command and Operations Center. NCOC further diverged that the rate of positive cases during the last 24 hours was 6.33%. Since August 24th, Pakistan's positivity rate has been under 7% on 13 out of 15 days. Pakistan is reporting 3,805 new infections on average each day, 65% of the peak, the highest daily average reported on June 17. NCOC has decided to impose a new set of restrictions in the federal capital from September 4th till September 12th in order to contain the spread. The increasing COVID-19 cases have increased the pressure on hospitals. Therefore, new restrictions had to be imposed. While much of the world's focus has been on the Delta variant of coronavirus, a new variant has been identified in South Africa. The novel C12 is reported to be the variant carrying the most mutations since the original wild variant emerged in China. Currently, Delta remains the dominant variant in South Africa and much of the world. What remains important and certain is that vaccination are still the best way to protect against the serious symptoms of COVID-19 and reduce the number of deaths that are still occurring worldwide from the disease.
COVID remains a pandemic. What we need to do is follow the SOPs and, of course, get ourselves vaccinated. That is the only way to prevent our country from a rising number of cases. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow with new segments and stories. Stay tuned for more. Allah Hafiz.